So 22 months into this conflict, where next? Sean Bell is a military analyst joining me in studio now. Sean, thanks very much for your time. The Hostage and Missing Families Forum in Israel says that if this planned expansion of the military offensive goes ahead in Gaza, it will lead Israel and the hostages to doom. That is their quote. Do you agree with them?
What's been fascinating about this whole conflict is that Prime Minister Netanyahu said he's got two clear aims, one of which was to destroy Hamas, stop it being a threat and stopping it governing, but also secure the release of the hostages. I think, as we've seen the course of the war well into its second year, fast approaching the anniversary, is that of the 251 hostages that were taken, 202 have been released, whether released live or dead, but they've only really come out through negotiation. There's 49 left, plus one who's been there for 11 years, and believed only 20 are alive. The only way to get those out historically has been through negotiation. It doesn't look like there's any appetite at the moment from the Israeli government to do that, and therefore further military action is likely to not secure the fate of those remaining hostages.
So, has he achieved the obliteration of Hamas as he wanted to, Netanyahu?
So I'm a former military guy, and I look at this very plainly. The military action is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. The end in itself is a political negotiated settlement. There is no way that the military alone, if you gave me the task of wiping out Hamas, I'd look at you and say it's almost impossible to do that. You can't destroy an ideology. What you have to do is drive it down so it's no longer a credible threat. And I think we've seen over the last 48 hours a group of very distinguished senior Israelis who've turned around and said Hamas is no longer the threat. We have to transition to some sort of political settlement, because if you don't have an idea of what that looks like, this war will carry on in perpetuity. And some of the images you're seeing coming out from Gaza are heartbreaking, whatever the politics behind it. Anybody who's a parent, it's a great struggle to see that sort of hardship endure.
I mean, I suppose the question is, how much humanitarian suffering can be justified or tolerated for a military goal?
Unfortunately, I think in the West, I spent quite some 2 years of my life, 3 tours in Afghanistan, and we were targeting some pretty high-value targets at that time. The rules of armed conflict were very clear. Many times the lawyers stopped us hitting people because there were civilians around them. We had to wait until they were isolated. Those rules don't seem to be being followed. If you look at the destruction in Gaza, there's now reports of over 60,000 civilian casualties. Now, some of those may well be Hamas, and they are numbers that come out from the Hamas-controlled Gaza Health Authority. But even so, when you look at the devastation, it's pretty clear there's a lot of civilian casualties out there. I don't think there is any. And war is abhorrent anyway. There are never any winners or losers. Clearly, the civilians are those that are suffering at the moment.
Do you see any workable solution here? We're seeing growing international pressure, the United Kingdom among the countries saying we are preparing to recognize a Palestinian state. Even Donald Trump, who's a staunch friend of Israel, acknowledging those haunting images of starvation. Do you think that the right pressure is being applied, or is something being missed?
Well, I think for me the answer is not military action, and that will not solve, that will simply perpetuate the situation. There's no doubt that over the last couple of years Prime Minister Netanyahu's managed to secure a sea change. He's not only dealt a blow to Iran, let's face it, the dark shadow of Iran is behind all of this, and Hezbollah and Hamas, but it would be quite wrong to believe there's a military solution to this. Eventually pressure has to be brought to bear. I've got some colleagues who are in the Israeli Defense Forces, and they, without being quoted, effectively say a lot of this is down to Netanyahu now, his own power struggle and the like. That's really difficult for me to reconcile, but ultimately it'll be political pressure being brought to bear, find a political solution. Hamas will not stop until a Palestinian state has been established. Most of the international community think that's the right answer. Prime Minister Netanyahu clearly doesn't believe that, and whilst there's that impasse, this conflict's going to continue.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Much appreciated. Sean Bell is a military analyst.